Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Welcome to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Steve Fielder here with you one more time. This time on the road up in the Keystone state of Pennsylvania at Lone Pine Kennels with my good buddy, Randy Smith. And man, we've been having a great time this week. Each time I come up here, he must be a glutton for punishment because he says, well, stay longer next time. So, by golly, we booked a whole week this week. You'll be ready to see me go down the road here by the end of the week, but it's Tuesday. We started on a Friday night. We've hunted every night. We had Randy and Clayton Stark, I think, hunted maybe Thursday and Friday nights, and I got to hunt with Clayton on Friday, and then he had some duties at home with Halloween. It's that time of year, of course, and but anyway, always good to see Clayton, and I think he and Randy did some recording that I look forward to listening to later on. But what I wanted to do today is get together with Randy here, and in this great guest quarters that he has here. It's just all the comforts of home. And man, I really take advantage of it when I'm here because it's just a perfect place. But at any rate, we've had 4 nights of hunting so far and have 3 more to go. And it's been dry, been real dry. But before I get into all that, I'll just bring my guest in. Actually, I'm his guest this week. But Randy, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm great, buddy. I'm great.
Yeah, we always have a great time when we're up here. Or I do, anyway. It's just a very, very comfortable trip for me. And you made it even better this time by picking me up at the airport in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no long drive involved.
No 2-day drive up here as usual. I usually do a stopover in Virginia, and that's a long haul for me, about 15 hours just up to there, and then another 5 hours on up here usually. So that's 20 hours of windshield time reduced to 2 hours.
We probably won't have to experience that anymore with all the more the flight costs. You couldn't drive it for that. So, and the airport's only about an hour from here, so it worked out good.
Well, your Uber rates are pretty good.
Well, you don't know. You haven't got the bill yet. I haven't got
the bill yet. But yeah, I flew up here round trip on Allegiant Airlines for $180. Now you can't.
No, they can't beat that. That was great. Yeah,
I would have spent. I probably had a motel en route and had, the gasoline costs and food and everything else. Plus this old body, man, the wear and tear on it. It's, but this trip has been. I mentioned, I think, last night to you, it's been real unusual for me. I have really felt better out in the woods walking. I've been going to most of the trees. Now, first night we hunted around close, and we had some of that up and down pretty steep stuff,
Yep. Yeah, the first night, well, both nights that Clayton were here, he come about 8:30 or so on Thursday night, so we hunted right around here, and I don't know, I think we went to the last tree about 1:30, and we treed 2 coons, and it was slim pickings. We treed one. It was a pretty tough track. Got a coon treed without too much trouble there, and then the recut took, I would say Farrah was on the ground for an hour and a half before she got treed again off of the recut there, and she I don't know. I mean, she was about 1.5 miles from where we cut her, but I'd say she probably covered at least 3 by the time it was over.
Yeah.
Yep. But treat a couple, and whenever them young dogs really have to dig deep and struggle like that, and they end up with a coon at the end of it, it's don't matter how tough it was. It's good.
That's right. Well, we have, as I always do when I come up here, I've seen some really good dog work. And it's kind of like a trademark of this place, I think. I was standing in the window here, I think it was maybe Saturday morning, not sure. And I was looking down to your kennel, and of course you got a big fenced area where you can let the dogs out of the runs, and they kind of have the run of the place there. But it reminded me, of course, being a dog man, everything reminds me of dogs. But I've made trips over the years to the big horse farms in Kentucky, around Lexington, and even in Florida there, around Ocala. The horse industry is not nearly what it was at one time in Florida. But this is like going to a breeding farm in Kentucky. You look out there and you see all those beautiful tree and walker hounds. It's tricolor everywhere, and in all stages. You got the little puppies that are big enough to run around. The ones I guess that you've picked to hold back out of the litters, and then you've got the yearlings or those that are entering training. And then you got the ones like you mentioned, Farrah, the Frogger pup there that, doing great. And it's just it's kind of a sad thing. We talked about this, I think, the other day. Sue, I asked you where Sue was, and you told me she's kind of in a retirement home now, pretty much with you.
My buddy John Brundage has her at his place there, just to have a dog there and enjoy. The kids like taking care of her and everything, so she's getting a little special attention here in her final time here. Yeah.
They just don't last long enough. Well, it was a real thrill last year. I think that was last fall when we got to hunt with Sue.
Yes.
Turned her loose first time, in 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, she had been out of the fence down there, and she just went on. Did what was natural. Yeah. And I posted last night, we hunted the Bertha female. It's out of Louis and Sue. Yes.
And it's been a year or so since she'd been out.
Yeah, we bred her about a year ago to bone collector semen that I had. And then she had them through the winter, of course. And then this spring we bred her to Frogger. And that's a couple of those little guys that are running around here right now. So she's been tied up. And then, whenever they get tied up and you have other ones that you're starting and working on and everything, the back burner is where they end up, but she was eager to go. She was happy to be there.
She did a great job last night. I think right toward the end, she was beginning to get a little tired.
She was too. Yep. We turned her loose the last spot there, and she turned around and looked at me, and I was like, I said, well, girl, you're the one that's down there making a fuss all the time, but you want to go, so get going.
Get with it. And she did. She went in there and got a tree one last time, I believe. Yeah. Well, we say we're not, or at least my gang that I go to White River with every year, that we're not really counting coons, but you have to. It's kind of thing that we do with coon hunting. And I know the first night we hunted, we treated around 6, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think we treated 6. Seen some other ones. I think that was about the best night that they've been moving here since Clayton came, was the second night there. And we actually hunted within earshot of the house. Yeah. The whole time here. You could have heard about every tree job from the porch. And did a bunch of recutting, and the dogs were scattered about and did really good. That was a good night. But since then, we've treated 4 each night.
4 each night.
4 each night, and it was tough to do there. I think night before last, I think Farrah had like 4 or 5 coons that run hard and straight into the ground.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'd never seen them, and these were tracks that she went out and struck and worked up, and got running and all, and they went straight to the ground.
Yeah.
In fact, we had that one there where things got a little western there. She was in a root ball or something.
Yeah, there was a blow down there, and the root system still had all the dirt attached, and a big old boar coon, instead of climbing a tree in that briar patch in there, went up inside that root system. And it was just it's been off. We've hunted a lot of more farm country. Did a little road trips each night here.
You took mercy on the old man and put me in some flat ground.
And I would say that, it was areas that I should have been able to see coons setting up all over the place, and it just wasn't the case. It was pretty sparse. I don't know if when you get around those unpicked cornfields, there should be yearling coons setting up around them where you spot them, and we've only killed big coons every night. I don't know what's going on.
Right, I know that one we got. Let's see, who were we hunting? That was that Fran.
Fran, a tree that big
old bobtail rascal.
Yeah.
He looked like the boss of the section. I said there's probably a lot of sow coons going to be missing old Bob.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, because I think we saw one coon setting up last night that we did.
Yes, we did. Yep, we seen maybe 2 the night before, and then 1 at the last drop the night before that. Whenever we talked Troy into turning loose one more time, I seen one sitting across the cornfield there. But they've been hard to come by in areas where they shouldn't be. So I don't know, as long as they're digging deep and coming up with them, if it's 4 or whether it's 14, I guess we'll just take what it is.
Well, it's all fun, and it's been a lot of fun. And for listeners to know how you work this, Randy, we usually, when we go hunting, you take 2 dogs. Mm-hmm. And you generally don't turn those dogs loose together, although when one of them gets struck, or maybe even treed, then you turn another one loose. That puts a little pressure on them to go ahead and do their thing.
Yep.
So when these coons that we've been treeing, these have all been single coons treed by a single dog.
Yes.
Not packing dogs together.
Right. Yep. Yeah. They. I don't think we've made a tree together. They split treed close the night with Clayton there. We thought they were treed together. Remember, we went down there and they each had a coon. Farrah had one up in a den hole, and Franny had one right off the opposite of the creek there. But the way this hunting lays here, a lot of times if I'm hunting 2 dogs, I see where this other dog is at or what they're going to do first before you turn 2 loose, to try to keep the hunt under control somewhat, and also to put pressure on that dog all the time to make sure that they are going the opposite direction, or at least going by that other dog, and they've stood the test when we turned loose.
Absolutely. I remember the one night, I think it was when we were hunting Fran and Farrah. And Farrah struck a coon, worked it out of the corn, ran it in there, got in the ground, as we talked about. Fran got struck back in that cornfield too, and ran one out of there and ran. I thought she was going to go to that coon was going to the hole the Farrah was already in, and darn it, she got treed.
Yeah, she did.
Before she got that far. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a cool drop there. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, they suit me just about to a T.
Well, for an old pleasure hunter like me, the mouths on these hounds I really like.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, they got big mouths. You can hear them forever. They use it right. They don't, they're not standing on their head. Well, we saw last night with the downed line female on that last track there. I mean, she can get one up and rolling and pretty quick.
Yeah.
And she's a young gal, too.
Yeah.
How old is she now?
She must be about 14 months old, something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah.
Terrific mouth. Now, she's out of the
drive line and shot.
I always have trouble remembering his name.
Yeah, he's a good reproducer.
Yeah, yeah. So there's like I said, we hunted Farrah, who's out of Frogger. We hunted little Fran, who's out of Jeb, Hardeman's Jeb.
Yep.
And old Fran, I call old Fran.
Yes.
The first night that I hunted.
Yes.
And we hunted those 2 nights.
Yeah, two
nights, Friday and Saturday nights.
Right.
Then we switched over to Bertha, and who'd we hunt with?
Down
Bertha?
her and the pup last night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's been a good week. Really enjoyed it.
Little Fran's daddy, Hardman's Jeb, my buddy Tootsie Hardman in Georgia, has owned him. Well, Mike Gilbert's breeding there, but he's that dog's really thrown a lot of the right kind of dogs too. He's hard going, accurate type of dog, and Tootsie has a litter mate to little Fran now that he bought here last winter, I guess, that they're really liking. So that's good. My poor buddy down there, that storm that came through decimated his properties and equipment. He's a bee farmer, a honeybee farmer, and it took days and days to get cut back in the lanes to see if the bee boxes were still made it through. Goodness. It was a sad deal. I really feel for him,
it has been a year for the books, that's for sure.
Yes,
man.
it has
so
here too.
Everywhere you look, there's some kind of devastation from the weather. Right? It just tells me that, as much as we plan and as hard as we work and try to be prepared and all, we're not in control.
No, mice and men both have big plans, but yeah.
Yep, that poem I remember from school. Sitting here in this apartment, which is very comfortable here, we're on nice, comfortable chairs. I'm looking around the walls here, right above your head there. It looks like a fish that's big enough to take my leg off. And this is a mount, which is really not the actual fish, but it's
a replica.
Tell me about that fish.
It's a northern pike that I caught. Not this past summer, but the summer before. Troy and I went to Alaska on the Yukon River drainage, which I've been to several times. And we were fishing it. The Yukon River is like a windy, like silty, dirty looking, like glacier type of watershed, of course. But there's channels that go back off of the Yukon River drainage. The Innoko River and the Yukon River intermingle there. And there's these channels that go back to these little natural lakes, maybe like, I don't know, 200 or 300 acre, like natural lakes. They vary in size, of course, but so there's like fresh water that's flowing from them into the Yukon River drainage, and that starting at those mouths of the channel to the lake is where the fish are. And we were fishing right at the mouth, and it's always where they call them gatekeeper fish stay. That it's like the premium place to feed, and so they're right there where that current's coming out and where everything meets together. And we were in there casting, and it was pretty slow, and I had a big fish follow, and I told the guide, I said, just keep it right here. That was I didn't realize how good a one it was, but I knew it was a trophy class fish, and I switched up to soft plastics, where you just doing a little chunking,
yeah.
you know, and tease type of thing. And she bit, and it was a 53-inch giant northern pike that I'll never duplicate. So I've been waiting for years. I've caught a lot of, you know, once in a lifetime northern pike going to the Northwest Territories in Canada or up there to Alaska. But that was the third one over 50 that I've caught. But that's the biggest one they'd caught at that lodge for at least 10 years, you know, probably longer. And so I finally got my fish to get a replica made of anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, folks can't see it, of course, but I'm sitting here looking at it, and I said, man, what a fish. You know, I mean, of course, I'm in Florida, and, you know, we got all that saltwater fishing, and there's big fish in the water, tarpon and all that stuff. But, man, freshwater fish and the teeth on that thing, like I said, I think he'd take your leg off.
They're the best. They're mean, and they're generally in the mood to chase, and they're fun. Yeah.
What's the terminal tackle, or what do you use on those things?
Well, you use braid line on musky-sized equipment, you know, like at least 65-pound braid that goes to either wire or a fluorocarbon leader, and pike will chase a lot of different kind of lures. I prefer like big safety pin style spinner baits is one of my favorites to use. Soft plastics I use a lot of, you know, the spoons was what everybody fished for pike because they like them, and it's a spoon is like indestructible, you know, and a pike will just destroy your lures, you know, if they're soft plastic, or if they have anything to hurt on there, they'll hurt them. But I was never really much of a spoon fisherman, but I use whatever they're wanting.
If they use spoons up there, they use like a red and white stripe or something.
Yeah, 5 of diamonds, or a big one that you know, all places is a Johnson silver minnow. You know, the big size of the ounce and 3/8 or whatever it is, silver minnows. If you go to a lot of those places, guys just tie one on, like my old buddy Terry, you know, he just tie a silver minnow on at the beginning of the trip and leave it. I'm always switching baits and doing stuff, you know.
Well, I learned to fish with spoons a little bit in Florida for redfish, and they like a gold spoon.
Oh, okay.
You know, and of course,
I've never fished for them. But
wobble action with that spoon.
Yeah.
But at certain times they do, you know. Yeah. Well, that's great, man. That's fantastic. And you took Troy up this year.
Yeah, he fished in Alaska last year. He got beaver fever about halfway through the trip. Ruined his trip. He had to stay at the houseboat for I think 3 or 4 of the days out of the 7. It was awful. He was deathly sick. Nowhere to go. Nothing to take. It was horrible. But we lived through it, and this last summer we went to a place in the Northwest Territories called Brabant Lodge that the Mackenzie River flows out of Great Slave Lake, and that's where their lodge is right there. Fantastic place to just wear you out catching fish, hundreds of fish a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hundreds of fish a day. Yep.
But it's funny, you never get tired of catching fish, do you?
No, I don't. I don't get to fish through the summer here at home, really. I mean, there's always seems to be too much stuff going on. So when I take a trip, I try to pack every minute I can into
just
fishing.
Like coon hunting.
Yeah.
It was funny the other night when Troy was saying, you know, it's going to be like 12 o'clock by the time we get back home. And
Yeah.
he said, well, we got to make that one last drop. I think he's been there enough that he knows that thing.
Yeah, he said before, I just can't figure you out. Whenever it's going bad, you still just keep after it. I said, well, you'll learn. Yeah.
Well, Troy's making a fine hunter, and I enjoy hunting with him. He's just an exceptional young man. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, we're really proud of him. He's in his senior year in high school, and he took building trades at the Votech. He's in the National Honor Society.
There you go.
He's both the boys have really been overachievers in the areas that they are passionate about. So
we need to talk about Cole a little bit.
Yeah, Cole
on Saturday went out and enjoyed watching Cole get that first place win in a dirt bike race. I don't know what you call those races exactly. But
they're kind of a woods racing series, or enduro, I think they used to call them, or whatever. But that's what he really enjoys. And he raced 2 divisions back to back that day there, and got first in one and third in the other. Did really good against adult stiff competition.
It was funny. I was watching there as they were getting ready to start that first race, and we were back there kind of behind all the bikes.
Yeah.
They send them in rows of, there's like 3 rows.
Division rows, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was in the back row, and I'm looking, and I said, well, man, the seat of his pants are almost worn out. And I said, how do they do that? After I watch them race a little bit, man, they're up over those whoop-de-whoops or whatever you call
up
them.
And down.
Up and down, smacking that seat. Oh, man.
Yeah,
and that one
tough.
race was like 45 minutes.
Yeah, they both were 45
but
minutes.
But some of them are like 2 hours.
He's raced this summer in the adult division. He could have still raced youth this year, but he's about 6'3" or something already. In order to race in the youth division, he has to ride a 110 or smaller bike.
Yeah.
And he just looked like a rhinoceros on a tricycle, so he just couldn't, it was too hard on his
knees
and his body and stuff. So he went to the adults, and the youth race an hour, which is brutal, and the adults race 2 hours. When they come off of there, they're jelly. There's nothing. It's really tough.
Well, I was not aware that dirt bike racing and all things, that's what I call them, is that big. But there was a big crowd of people there, and a lot of bikes, a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and adults, as you say. So
thousands of people at the big events, there's, Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun. I did a little bit of not racing, bought a bike when I was in Japan, the Air Force. And good. We all have our different things that appeal to us,
That's right.
With me, it was always the hounds. With my brother, it was music, So, and then even my son, he started off with me with the hounds, but then he got into basketball and those sort of things. So we all tend to find our own thing.
Yeah, each time that we've made a purchase of a new bike or whatever, I'd tell Cole that you owe me 25 hunts for this new bike. Well, he's got a lot of hunts to make up for here. He's really behind in the bank. Yeah. Yep.
Well, it's a pretty interesting place here. You got a lot of, I think Clayton was remarking the other day about all the wildlife you have around here.
Yeah.
You got some nice deer hunting here. You can run your beagles right here out the back door and have a good rabbit race. And then you've got some bigger animals kind of finding their way around from time to time.
We've been seeing bears around here all summer. And last week was bear season with the bow was in. And we have a camera up on on Troy's stand back where he hunts there. And the one evening I had a picture of a bear on the shooting lane, and 6 minutes later, a picture of him coming into the stand. He missed his chance for the bear.
6 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, well, it's always a joy for me to get up here. I haven't lived down there in that holding pen for Yankees in Florida. Speaking of which, the Yankees are not doing so well in the World Series as of
That's
today.
what you've been saying. Yeah.
The Dodgers. I'm not a big Dodger fan either, but I am definitely not a Yankee fan. For listeners out there that are, God love you, and I apologize, but I just can't do it. So the World Series, as we're recording this, stands at 3-0 Dodgers.
So they just got to pull one more off, and that's the end.
It's do or die night tonight for the Yankees.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to looking around this room, right above my head here is a beautiful mount on a piece of driftwood of a couple of otters. Now, trapping's been part of your life for a long time, hasn't it, Randy?
Yes, I would say probably from the time I was about 8 or 9, I walked from the farm down there and would set traps that was around in groundhog holes or whatever, and it always was fascinating to me to have some traps out. And my older brother Jeff trapped a little bit, and I got bit with the bug with him early on, and I think in my 6th grade year, I caught my first red fox, and ever since that day, I've been bound and determined to be a trapper, Yeah. So, but there's been a non-existent fur market for about, I'd say, going on 10 years now.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I've got lots of places all over the United States here where I can just show up and know the territory, have places to stay, and lots of animals to catch and everything, and no market to sell them, which has really been sad for me through the years here. I put a walk-in freezer in the year that the fur market crashed, and I just thought, well, I'll just put fur away until it comes around, and then I'll have it to sell. And I had the walk-in freezer packed as full as it could be from the back to the ceiling to the front. And Russia invaded Ukraine, and I figured that would just further prolong the it from recovering. So I sold everything to Groenwald from Illinois there, and I haven't really trapped in 3 years now.
Yeah, that's a shame. And it's something that you're passionate about. My dad loved to trap. After the, hunting seasons were over and all, he would trap around those old strip mines there in West Virginia for red fox mainly.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed when we're out, like last night, we found where somebody had a set there.
Yeah, we did.
And being a woodsman, as you are, the little things that you pick up. You showed me something the other night I didn't know about how those mink always stand on the tops of those culverts.
Yeah,
and you could see the mink tracks. I never noticed that before.
Yeah. If you're in an area where there's mink, that like if you have a culvert pipe there where you can see tracks on. Some of them are cement and you can't see, but this was a black plastic corrugated like culvert pipe, and them little mink toe prints are all right on the very top of the culvert where they look down into the water there. I think they jumped down in, but they, on both sides you could see where their little toe prints are all over the place there.
Well, it's been said with all the craziness in this world anymore, that the farther we get from the family farm, the less common sense we see, the less, and a lot of that I think is like, trapping, for instance, is a great gateway for kids to get into the outdoors,
Yeah, when I was a kid, all the country kids had a few traps. It was, right in the peak of the fur boom. And, if you caught a raccoon, might be worth $35.
Think about it. Yeah,
in today's money, that would probably be $135 or more. And all the kids, people were calling fox, and they were trapping and coon hunting. And there's a sticker that one of the fur companies in Canada gave out years ago. I still have it on a cooler I just looked at it the other day, and it said, "Kids that hunt, trap, and fish don't mug little old ladies." And that's about, I mean, you could sum up a lot with what's going on with the youth today in that right there. That, how often do you see a kid even on a bicycle today riding, going to meet up with buddies or whatever? You don't see any kids out at all. The only place I see kids out anywhere across the countryside is right here at my house. So they all show up here, and they're riding dirt bikes, or they're taking off from here to squirrel hunt or do something. And I'm really glad that these kids of mine aren't staring at their phone all the time, that they're wanting to be in the outdoors doing something.
Exactly. Well, that's like with me, the other kids, I lived in the edge of a small town, but still we had across the highway, and then it was the woods. And, I had my little places I'd slip off to if I wanted to. I wouldn't tell anybody else because there were other kids who were out doing the same thing.
Sure.
If I found some squirrel, or maybe where they were cutting on some hickory or something like that, that was, there was competition there,
I'll never forget. You told me one time where if you were coon hunting in a place and you looked down at a sandbar there in the creek and there was a coon track, you went down with your boot and smeared it out.
That's exactly right. My dad would tell me when I'd trout fish, go along the creek, he said, "You see any coon tracks, you rub them out."
Oh, that's something.
That's right.
Incredible.
You take your boot and rub that thing out. Don't let anybody else see that. He said, "We'll go back in there and catch that rat."
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and what you were talking about the kids being able to make a good, good payday off of a coon or whatever. My dad told me in the Depression years that he would hoe corn all day for a neighbor farmer. They'd provide his noonday meal and pay him 50 cents a day. Yeah. He could go out with those cur dogs that they had and catch a possum and get 65 cents out of a possum.
Yeah.
So it was more lucrative to
that's right.
That I imagine growing up in farm country here like you did, and of course you're a lot younger than me, that idea of a coon track being that valuable, but didn't register with you much probably. But
I'll tell you, just for instance, like around here, there was actually, when I was a kid, there was in little meadow or pasture field streams that had mud banks, and even some of the rocky creeks, there was muskrats in about every waterway. And the muskrat season came in Thanksgiving morning. And it was like 7 a.m. or daybreak or whatever. Okay. Well, whatever creek that you found the most muskrat sign in, you better be there first thing in the morning, because if not, you'd be trapping behind somebody else. And it was everywhere. I mean, the fur thing was amazing. I mean, there was guys, people pass cars and you'd see stakes sticking out the back of the trapping baskets in the back of the trucks, and everybody was trapping. Everybody, and I know that, people look back at that as like it was a hassle and everything, but I look at it as it was a lot better than the way things are today. Yeah. I'd rather have people understanding more about people doing things in the outdoors rather than just sitting in a tree stand, for a deer. Yeah.
Well, true. And, that's the thing that's so, I don't know, disappointing, I'll use that word, is that this fur is a renewable resource.
What a beautiful renewable every year, and when animals are pursued and the population's reduced, they do better than when they're left unchecked. So we have less coons now than when I was chasing raccoons like a madman.
Exactly.
It's just a way of things. We're put on this earth to manage these animals, and when they go unmanaged, something will manage them, and it's disease or. Yeah.
Well, your business is pest control and critter control and all that. There in Florida, I look on these neighborhood things on Facebook. Somebody complain about having bats in their attic. Someone else complain about having raccoons. And somebody was saying, of course, one of these, bunny huggers talking about, oh, well, I hope it's, you don't harm those raccoons. You take them and somehow, and this mentality that, we just leave everything alone.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get started on that because down there they got a law that if you got cat problems around your house, all these feral cats, if you want to get rid of them, you have to trap them and go have them spayed.
Oh, yeah.
Or neutered.
Yeah.
And then turn them back loose.
Which is insanity. The same animal then with, that's been spayed or neutered is still out there, catching and killing songbirds, rabbits, whatever it's just, for sure. It's crazy. People today have just gotten so far away from the reality of how nature and just about everything else works in this world, but I'm holding tight to what I know, and I just keep doing what I do, and you'll end up being an old school guy like me one of these days, looking back and saying, things were a heck of a lot better. Yeah, I can see it right now, even in my lifetime, how much better things were. Just those older. The last generation of farmers, I always call them the last of the Mohegans. These, a farmer that doesn't care who's on there, they're just glad to see people, eliminating some of the wildlife that are, that they have to feed. And today, whenever that generation's gone, each generation that owns property today is tighter with it than the generation before them. They're just like, they don't want anybody on there, and they just, if they just as soon weren't bothered with it. And, years ago, I was down at my buddy Gene Harrison's. He had a beautiful farm in Maryland there, and I drove down there any minute every chance I got, I was there. And I was down in the fall. We were going to go coon hunting, of course, and in the evening there was 3 or 4 pickup trucks parked right like. There was a place called the Back 40 back there. We had to go through his woods to get to another field back there, and there was trucks parked back there. And I said to him, "Who's that back there?" He said, "Hell, I don't know." Guys were just back there deer hunting, and they knew that anybody was welcome at Gene Harrison's there to hunt, and boy, what I wouldn't have people have that attitude today, it's, it's sad. Really.
Well, unfortunately they don't. And I don't know where this idea of this possession of when you have woods or farms or whatever, I realize if people are in there cutting fences and throwing trash around and all that kind of stuff, how a landowner could get upset with that. But somebody making footprints across their property, why, the inhumanity of men, I know. It just is mind-boggling. Well, before somebody says, hey, we're going to revoke your coon hunting card on this podcast, we need to talk a little bit, I guess, about some coon hunting.
Yeah.
But in following my eyes again around this room, there's some pretty significant pictures on the wall. Yep. This one right inside the door, and there's a couple of this apartment also serves as your trophy room, and I'm sure you've got more in your home. Which is nearby. But what's the picture there with the family and the dog? What do we got there?
Yeah, in 2011, Track Girl, which was out of Trackman and Lone Pine Patsy, got in the final 4 of the UKC World Hunt. And the boys were little guys, and we went to get family pictures taken, and she got she got in the family picture there. You can see she had just come off of bone collector pups before I just took her off the pups and went to the last qualifier of the year. It was at Meadville, Crawford County Coon Hunters. It's the last one. I think it's the next to the last qualifier. Medina, Ohio always was the last one. And Meadville was like a couple weeks before that. I took her to that qualifier and I won the qualifier with her, like 900 and some. And then took her to the zone, and I if I remember correctly, I think the zone was at Meadville also.
Could have been.
It was. Yeah. It was. I'm almost sure it was. And she won the zone. I had a big score Friday night. I'm thinking it was maybe 8-something, and they had me and John Brundage guiding both nights. So the plan was to just chill out on Saturday night, and we had enough. And we got into a place there, and I called her the cornfield queen. She could find a cornfield. She would, if she got downwind of a cornfield, if it was a half a mile away, she knew to get her butt back in there. And we actually turned loose in a cornfield there on purpose, and she treed 4 singles by herself in that around that cornfield there and won the zone. And then let's see, the Thursday night hunt, I drew, I don't remember, there was a black dog in the cast, Mark Looney from Georgia. Mm-hmm. You know him?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he put on the hunt that was down there in Georgia there, the finals several years ago. But anyway, I can't remember exactly how many we treed. I think she treed 2 or 3 coons by herself, won that cast. That was at the time whenever you had to go back out by yourself. Mm-hmm. And I drew a guy, I can't remember his name. This was in Ashland, Ohio.
Ashland, Ohio.
Yeah. And he took me out there to tree a coon by myself, and I'll say this now because it's such a long time ago, but he said, I don't agree with this going out by yourself. You know, he said, so you turn her loose and I'm not going down in there. But we had, I think, 4 or 5 spectators along because she'd been making a fuss, you know. I said, somebody's going with me down into that tree that, you know, she makes a tree and there. Well, this stuff's legit, you know. So she got out in the middle of this cornfield. She had the most, if I could just have a mouth on every dog that I ever had like her, it just sounded like somebody burning rubber on the highway, a screaming squall mouth. She got struck up in this cornfield and she was breathing on this coon and come treed out there, and the tree was on the other side of a woven wire sheep fence. And it kind of grown into the tree. And she was on the cornfield side of the fence, but had a big old coon sitting up there, and everybody made a fuss about her mouth and all that. It was, I'll never forget it. It was a great night.
What greater pleasure than to put the time in the dog, train the dog, raise the dog in your case, and go out and have them perform like that in front of a crowd.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, oh man, what a rush.
Yeah.
You know?
So then the next night, Friday night, I drew the same guide that had a guiding service for deer hunters and stuff. And he took us, and I think she scored 675 or something like that. And that put her automatically into the final 4 because at the time there were 5 casts that went to the woods Friday night. Yeah. And 2 lowest scores, they had to go back out. But she was high score then. And then I drew Eric Pyatt with Hissy Fit. And you just said the English guy from Michigan there,
Larry Wilcox.
Larry Wilcox. He ended up won the cast that night. It wasn't a real smooth hunt we had on the final four there, but it was a very memorable thing for me because the year before she had advanced into the top 100, and we were out with Mark Zepp's buddy guiding us on the cast that you went out by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
She had advanced, and she treed a coon, and we were all celebrating and having. Jason Martin was handling her that night, and we went and took the scorecard back and didn't think to sign it, and they threw the scorecard out. We were on that cast. We were by ourselves, so I about had my teeth ground down to the gums on the way home over that one. So it was really good for her to make a comeback the next year, and she was I tell people that I loved her from the day she was born. You know, I picked her right away out of the litter whenever we had her, and she was great.
Some Alan Gingrich at UKC remembered her, you know, and made a comment one time when we brought her up about, you know, that she was really a good one.
Yeah, she was.
So she made an impression on a lot of people.
Yeah, she was number one on the top reproducers list for years running. I had bred her pretty young. The first time I actually bred her to Mojo, she only had one pup. And then the next time I bred her to Bone, and that was after, you know, she did that at the World Hunt there. But she was a really good reproducer and really good for me here.
Classic Walker hound look to her. Beautiful.
Yes. Big female.
Beautiful. Yeah, big, leggy female. Tricolored, lots of color. Yep, that's great. And that's Track Girl. And she's in the pedigree of about everything. She's somewhere, isn't she? Yep,
she's old Fran's mama. So all them dogs that, you know, go back to that was.
Well, I've gotten really. I'm a big fan. I'm a Fran fan.
Yeah.
I got last night we went to a place that was the first time I came up and hunted with you, and the first dog we turned loose that night was Fran.
Yeah.
And I liked her from the start. And then, of course, little Fran here, oh, man, I want to talk about her a little bit. But then my buddy, Keston, down in Virginia, you know, got the pup from you out of Cooney Valley Pack and Fran.
Yeah.
And I call him the raccoon vending machine. Yeah. You just drop your money in and out comes a coon.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And so, you know, I'm really, and then of course, little Fran here. I wanted to, before we get away from that, this picture of you and Tom Strang, you're much younger. You're sitting on the porch, your buddy Tom. What dog is that?
That was Lone Pine Ellie. Ellie was out of Logan's Wild Clover and Lone Pine Chris. And that whole litter was where I started with Tom. Tom had them a couple generations prior to that. Chris was out of Toby. Toby was Tom's first Lone Pine dog. He was an original out of Finley River Pete and Lone Pine Lady. So when I got with Tom, I got partners with him on Ellie, and there was one that we had called Annie, and that was Cowboy's mother. So, but that litter was the my real start, you know, with the Lone Pine dogs, other than now Woody Malone owned a litter mate to those that his out of Chris and Clover, that his name was Nailer. Malone's Lone Pine Nailer, and I had dogs out of Nailer, and so I had.
How many years we going back there? With
that was
picture?
Early 90s. I would say that was probably 93, 92 or 93, something like that.
I'd been at UKC about 10 years then.
Yeah.
Well, you've always preferred the females.
Yep.
I know that's true. Behind you there off your left shoulder is a picture of a nice hound on a oak. And
I remember walking to that tree. That was probably 89 or 90. That was a female that I had out of Joe Hartman's bank, and Walter Bush's female, Sammy, called her. Walter gave me her, had 2 or 3 litter mates to her all there, and I was looking for a dog to get, and she was the first good dog that I had, and at 3 years old, she got shot off a tree, and she had 4 wins towards grand at the time, and she was a really good one, but that was a hard break. And then during that time, I was hunting with Claude Lawson, and he had a dog named Lone River Gunner. And when I saw that dog, I mean, what the plans were was to breed her to him sometime. I never got to breed her, but I did get to see, the stamp of what I was looking for in a good dog.
As I recall, Gunner was out of Quick.
Logan's Wild Quick.
Out of a sister to Flag?
No, she was out of a daughter of Flag.
Yeah.
And Muddy Lane's Queen, Preston's Roxy, which was Kyle Preston's dad's dog. So, Kyle and I are hooked up to this day, So, but Lone River Gunner he was the dude in this area here. You couldn't beat him. He was loud. He was proud. He was a badass. I'll tell you, he really was. He was something.
These pictures and the way that you preserved them and framed them, and basically, these dogs, all of this is history, but it's very, very impressive and enjoyable for somebody like me to come here and listen to the history of the Lone Pine dogs, and you've recorded it here almost like a museum. And I think that's great, really good. Well, we're talking about Fran there, and then you've got this younger female now you call Little Fran, and just like her mama, I love her. I mean, what a mouth and what a tree dog she is. She is an amazing tree dog.
Sweet as she can be. She's never been a problem, from that girl, Patsy, Fran stuff, like, Bella, the female, won the 100,000 here, a couple years ago. Well, it's a couple years ago. And Dinah, that whole litter, I bred Fran the first time to bone collector semen.
Yeah.
Those dogs really.
What beautiful pups they were, too.
Yeah, they were. Yep. Yeah. Yep. They were, they made, that was it. Whenever I say like historic, I'm just talking about my little world here, but that cross between Fran and bone collector was historic here with Bella and Dinah, and there's a dog up in Canada named Snowface that Mark, I think his last name's Gunther, Mark Gunther, has up there that is a real dog. My buddy Dan Carr from Ohio has a female named Pearl that was from that litter. There were 5 in the bunch. One didn't make it, and all the other ones really have made their mark, here and there and everywhere, so they were good ones. But yeah, old Fran was such a sweetheart of a coon dog, just like her mother was. She was just never made a bark in the kennel, and you wouldn't think that the way that they acted around the house there, that you'd have to walk on them, and you just put them in the box, and they were just come alive. They were great.
I think that's the first time I really sat down in a side by side and watched a dog hunt on a drive track. And you can really tell what the dog is doing. Of course, it's common now, but I just liked her from the standpoint. I've just watched the way she hunted. She knew where to go to find a coon. She, to me, she may not have been a rip snorter, fire breather that some dogs were maybe, but to me, she just suited me perfectly.
Yeah, if you watched her, you see all those contour lines here. It's not very flat, so she would just know to go down the hollow and back up around the ridge, and she just knew exactly how to look for one. You could just watch her, and she almost never put her feet in the same place twice.
Yeah.
And she was good.
Well, another instance of that I recall was when this little female you got out here in the pen was about 8 months old, and we've talked about her before, Lone Pine Lady.
Yeah.
Now, Lady, we hope, is bred, right?
Well, she's at 30 days right now. Okay. And, of course, I'm staring at her but I think it's looking good, her, they start to have a little bit of signs right at a month, Well,
in case any of the listeners don't know who Lady is, Lady, of course, we can go back. She was out a baby.
Yes.
Which was the dog that made several Final Fours and registries and all. And unfortunately, you lost her in childbirth or thereabout. But little Lady was the won that Joy Super Hunt against the world champions.
Yep.
She beat the UKC and the PKC world champions and won that hunt. She also won a truck.
Mm-hmm. While John had her, I think I'm not sure exactly how much, but it's close to like 100,000 that he won with her, I think, in about a year's time.
Yeah.
Austin Ewing, I had her, maybe she was about a year and a half old whenever I let Austin take her, and his dad and I hunted together, and Austin was looking to hunt a dog, so he took her and put a lot of wins on her and did really good with her. And a couple years ago now at the PKC World Hunt, John took her over because John had hunted with her, against her with Austin on several occasions and wanted to buy her, and I wouldn't sell her, but I gave her to him. So anyway, that was a good chapter in Lone Pine Kennel there.
John Strickland we're talking about. I think we mentioned. Yeah.
So she...
and she's bred to?
Full Throttle Jigs semen that I own. So I've owned it now for a long time, and just finally used one of them. But we're hoping and praying that she caught. She was at North Ridgeville, Ohio, at Doc Hutchinson's facility out there getting bred here. Like I said, it was the 28th that she was bred on in September, and it's the 29th today. So she's been, it's right at a month, and we're hopeful.
Maybe there's another meltdown out of that.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, it would be nice. Jigs only sired like 250 pups in his lifetime. And there was a time in that Pro Hound magazine that Full Throttle Everything had it in the pocket. He was really a good reproducer, and I had bred to him a couple times live, and he was great for me.
Yeah. Well, Quick Shot, for instance.
Yep. For sure.
We hunted with one out of Quick Shot this week.
Yeah, little Farrah. Yep. She's a
sweetheart too.
Yeah, I got really high hopes that she's going to win at a real high level. She's really accurate. She's looking for a cone every minute that her feet are on the ground, and she makes short work of getting something done, and she's loud enough you can hear her forever.
For sure.
Yep.
Oh my. Well, let's hope that Lady caught, and that will be big news. If you get some Jigs pups on the ground out of Lone Pine Lady, I mean, that's just that's dream stuff.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Jill. She's a daughter of Bone Collector and Sue that I bred to Willie here.
Yeah, this would be your first Willie pups.
Yeah. I hope anyway. I should have used Willie prior, but just sometimes things just don't line up. But I'm sure JR has them collected, and I'll have Willie pups one way or another here. He's a good reproducer too.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the current world champion, UKC world champion.
That's right. Well, he beat us
Lacey
on the Final Four. Baby, that would have been, 16, Sue, 17, 18, 2018, Rick and Baby and JR and Willie were in the Final Four at, where was that? Mount Gilead, I think, out there.
probably.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But,
Well, those old Lone Pine dogs have been showing up in that Final Four here pretty regular.
yeah, I'm proud of them. They, I don't know if they've sued everybody, but they suit me to the core. I really enjoy them.
Well, let's get into that just a minute. Everybody knows that my chosen breed's been Plott. I was raised with them. They're in my blood. And I've had some pretty good ones down through the years. And everybody knows I'm old and I'm not hunting like I used to and all. And they'll say, why do you go up there and hunt with those Walker dogs? The reason, first of all, is come up here and visit with you, Randy.
Yeah.
No question. That's
We always have
number one.
a good time.
We always do. But I am a coon hunter. I like a good hound. And when I come up here, I see good hounds and not in short supply. It doesn't matter what we pull out of that kennel down there. And we go, I know we're going to tree coons. I know they're going to have good mouths. I know they're going to be tree dogs. And I know we're going to see raccoons. Now, if you're a coon hunter, how can you turn that opportunity down? Plus, I get to come up here and live like a king. I told my wife this morning, I said, I ate so much yesterday that I was I couldn't move. I mean, we made a small breakfast, and then we went to your mother's house for lunch. Now, this is lunch, folks. Roast beef that would melt in your mouth. Mashed potatoes, homemade mashed potatoes, not the fried stuff. Green beans, salad. And then, when you can't even move to get the chair back, here comes the Big Apple dumpling or whatever with the vanilla ice. That's lunch.
Yeah, she's
What a sweetheart she is.
The angel for our family, for the prayer warrior, the most selfless person
Absolutely.
that I've ever known. She does everything for somebody else. She expects nothing in return. If she asks you that she needs something, I feel so bad to ask you, but I need. I'm like, Mother. She called me this morning at 8:00, and she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually just getting out of bed." "Well, how come you're getting up so late, She said. I said, "Well, we've been hunting every night, "Oh, I forgot about that." She said, "Just call me whenever you get."
Well, I thought it was funny last night. I'd posted a picture. I did a little posting from the woods last night, and I talked about the hunting was kind of tough. We'd treat too, and all. She posted on, "Well, just keep hunting," she says.
Oh, yeah.
But then that's not the end of the story yesterday. Then about 4:30 or something, you text me and say, you're coming down for supper. And I go down there and Carrie, your wife's got a lasagna as long as a tailgate sitting up there on the...
Well, she said she wanted to make sure you didn't go hunting hungry.
My goodness. My goodness. Yeah, it's always a great time at Lone Pine Kennels for sure. Well, Randy, we've been at it a little over an hour here. I guess that's probably enough. I always enjoy our visits together. We got 3 more nights to hunt.
Yeah.
And what's your plan? What do you think we'll hunt tonight?
Well, we'll probably take Fran and Farrah tonight again here. They give them the night off last night, and I tried to get a hold of John to see if we're going to meet with him or what we're going to do here. But we'll probably head to some farm country again tonight here. And
I love it.
We had a little bit of rain. not enough to even measure, but we had a little bit of rain, and the pressure seems to have changed a little bit. I'm guessing that we'll have a little better movement in the coons tonight. I would say.
Well,
we're going to go find out.
It's been so dusty.
Oh, yeah.
You drive the side by side and pull up when you get out. I mean, it's just a cloud.
When you walk, if you watch the guy that's walking ahead of you, just walking, there's just a plume of dust. It's so dry. Yeah. I think we're approaching like 10 inches below normal levels of rain for us here, that's really, really low. Normally our falls are pretty wet here. It's usually pretty soupy through the fall, and it hasn't rained hardly any here. So,
we can't control the weather, and God bless.
We have been enjoying the nice weather. It's been a beautiful fall.
Oh, absolutely. We kind of a little bit past peak on the fall colors, but there's still plenty of it. And these hills around here are so beautiful. And just a great time of year to be alive. And I know listeners out there in wherever you live, and you're enjoying the fall and your hounds, and I hope you are. And if you get the opportunity to visit those friends that mean so much to you, spend those hours with them if you can. Well, we had a little hiccup there with the power source there, and as I was saying, I'm going to take every opportunity that I can to get out and visit with my friends, and I especially thank you, Randy, for the opportunity to come up again. It's always a good time.
Yeah, well, it's our pleasure. We like to have folks come here, and you're not the only one that's welcome. If people want to come here, I know it's a little bit out of the way for, a lot of people to come, but, we're the welcome mat is out, and we're always interested in having somebody see what we got. The dogs are always on display here.
Well, I would certainly urge anybody that gets the invitation to come to Lone Pine Kennels and to hunt with Randy and Troy and these hounds, do it. Absolutely do it. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the Gone to the Dogs podcast. I want to thank Buddy Woodbury, Jason Doobie, all the folks at W Hunting Supply that make it possible for me to come to you each week. I also want to thank Alpha Dog Nutrition for their sponsorship, and of course my big buddy Mark Zepp with Zepp Predator Calls, and all that Mark does for me. It'd take me an hour to list it all, but we love you, Mark. And anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Gone to the Dogs. If you get a chance, folks, get out there with a hound. It's a great sport, something that you'll enjoy, and you'll make friendships like I have with Randy Smith, and that'll be really make it worth your while. So that's it for this episode of Gone to the Dogs. Steve Fielder from Randy Smith. Let's go coon.